Hi, my name is Robert Shelley with Shelley Law, and I'm an attorney that assists healthcare providers with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today I'm going to talk about the difference between an RVU and a work RVU in healthcare. So first, RVU stands for Relative Value Unit, and it is a value of measurement used by CMS, Center for Medicare Services, which places a value on services provided by facilities and providers. And there's three types of RVUs. So first would be the practice expense RVU. And so the practice expense RVU takes into account the operational costs associated with providing medical service. It includes expenses for office space, equipment, non-physician staff. And so basically that's how a facility is reimbursed, is through the practice expense RVU. The second type of RVU is a malpractice RVU, and that simply takes into account the premiums associated with malpractice insurance for the provider and then the relative risks for each procedure. And then the last RVU, and the one that most healthcare providers are familiar with, is the work RVU. And the work RVU is a measurement of the time and intensity of the medical service provided. So if you have a higher acuity case that takes a much longer time, there's going to be more RVUs associated with that. So those are the three types of RVUs. You have the work RVU for the provider, the practice expense RVU for the facility, and then the malpractice RVU, which is wrapped in as well. Now, when you're a healthcare provider, you are only compensated based upon the work RVU. And so this is generally used in hospitals and healthcare networks. Most privately owned physician groups do not use RVUs, or at least they don't use work RVUs to compensate their employees. Most of the time, if you're with a kind of smaller physician-owned group, they will, if they are compensating via productivity, it'll be some kind of net collections-based model. Essentially, any of the money received by the practice based upon the personally performed services of the provider, then the provider will get a percentage of it. Now, if you're paid purely on work RVUs, basically you would just multiply your RVUs generated in a period of time. It could be monthly, quarterly, yearly, and then there will be a compensation factor associated with it. Now, the compensation factor varies based on specialty. So some of the higher level specialties, neurosurgeons, those types of heart surgeons, they have a much higher compensation factor versus, pediatricians or family medicine. I'm talking about physicians specifically in that instance. So very simple, just multiply the RVUs times the comp factor, and that's how much you would make. Now, most places aren't pure production based. There would usually be some kind of hybrid, or perhaps you would have a guaranteed minimum for the first year or two, and then your compensation after that would be based upon your RVUs from the previous year, or maybe there's a rolling, so the previous 3 quarters, and then it just continues on with the previous 3 quarters, determines what your draw is for the next quarter. There are different ways of doing it, but that is the difference between a work RVU and an RVU. They're all RVUs, they're just called something differently for the 3 different categories. If you have any questions about an employment contract or independent contractor agreement, feel free to contact my law firm at the contact information listed below in the description. And if you have any comments, please post those. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And I appreciate you watching the video. Thanks.